A routine visit to the bank takes an unexpected twist when a successful black businesswoman is left waiting for hours. But everything changes the moment the executives step through the door. What will Maya Johnson, a driven yet humble entrepreneur, do in the face of such blatant disrespect? And how will the bank react when the truth is seen by those in power? Stay with us to find out. And don't forget to comment where you're watching from. Like and subscribe for more thought-provoking stories. Maya straightened the sleeves of her jacket as she stepped confidently into the polished granite lobby of Horizon National Bank. Her heels echoed steadily against the gleaming floor, the sound of a woman who had fought hard for every step she took. Years of persistence and resilience had brought her to this moment, finalizing the funding for her newest venture, an inclusive housing project aimed at revitalizing the very neighborhood where she'd grown up. She approached the reception desk with a composed smile. "Good morning," she greeted the clerk. "I'm Maya Johnson, here for a 10 a.m. meeting with Mr. Gaines." The receptionist checked her screen, her smile fading ever so slightly. "I'll let Mr. Gaines know you've arrived," she said politely. "Please take a seat, Ms. Johnson." Maya nodded and sat down on one of the minimalist black chairs nearby. It was 9:55 a.m. She was, as always, a few minutes early. She glanced at her phone, reviewing the last few bullet points for her presentation. The deal was all but sealed. Flawless credit, impeccable track record, solid portfolio. This was just a formality. But she knew how much appearances mattered. The minutes slipped by. Maya noticed the receptionist whisper something to a colleague around 10:10. Her chest tightened for a moment, but she chose to remain still, remembering that calm confidence had always served her better than confrontation. By 10:30, she approached the desk again, her voice steady but unmistakably firm. "Pardon me, can I confirm that Mr. Gaines has been notified I'm here?" The receptionist looked momentarily flustered, tapping the keyboard anxiously. "Yes, ma'am. He knows. He's just wrapping up some things. He'll be with you shortly." Maya gave a slight nod and returned to her seat, crossing her legs and sitting upright with intent. She watched other clients come and go, each one called promptly and greeted with courtesy, while the clock continued its quiet critique of her professionalism. At 11 a.m., Maya stood again, her tone sharper. "My appointment was an hour ago. Can you please explain the delay?" This time, the receptionist picked up the phone. After a brief and hushed exchange, she replied, "Mr. Gaines will be with you soon." That soon stretched into another 30 minutes. Finally, the bank manager emerged. But the sight of him did little to ease Maya's growing frustration. David Gaines, a man in his late 40s with slick hair and a tailored suit, walked over with a smile that felt more like routine than remorse. "Ms. Johnson, sorry for the wait," he said flatly, his voice devoid of genuine regret. "It's been a hectic morning." Maya met his gaze directly. "My meeting was scheduled for 10. It's nearly noon. Let's move forward, shall we?" "Certainly," he replied, motioning toward his office. "This way." As they passed the rows of tellers, Maya couldn't ignore the subtle glances being exchanged among the staff. It was as if her very presence had disrupted the silent rhythm of the entire bank. Inside the manager's office, Mr. Gaines gestured toward the chair across from him, then took his time settling in, adjusting papers with an air that suggested she had nowhere better to be. Leaning back, he finally spoke. "So, Ms. Johnson, how can I assist you today?" Maya fought the urge to clench her fists. "I believe you're already aware. I'm here to finalize the loan for the Riverstone Commons development. All necessary documents should already be in your system." Mr. Gaines glanced at his screen, clicked around without urgency, then leaned back again, fingers interlocked over his midsection. "Ah, yes, the Riverstone Commons project. That's quite a bold endeavor." "It is," Maya responded evenly. "But as you'll see, I've met every single requirement. Your underwriting team has reviewed and approved my proposal, financial records, and business plan. All that's left is your final signature." His mouth curled into a thin, unreadable smile. "Well, these matters require careful attention. Ms. Johnson, I'll need to comb through everything again to ensure nothing has been overlooked. I was informed that approval had already been granted, pending only your sign-off," she replied. "That's true," he said. His tone dipped in patronizing charm, "but I prefer to give these files a personal review. Surely you understand." Maya pressed her tongue to the inside of her cheek, keeping her expression neutral. She knew exactly what this was, a power play designed to shake her confidence and reassert control over a situation she had navigated flawlessly. "Take all the time you need," she replied, her voice calm, smooth, and unshaken. "I'll wait right here." His smile twitched briefly, but he nodded and turned back to his monitor. The next hour crawled by. He scrolled slowly through her documents, scribbling notes, occasionally asking questions that had little relevance. Maya responded to each one, with composed precision, masking her rising frustration with unshakable grace. By 12:45 p.m., her patience had worn thin. She stood abruptly, prompting Mr. Gaines to look up, startled. "Mr. Gaines," she began, voice firm yet respectful, "I operate with professionalism and expect the same in return. If there's an actual concern with my application, I'd prefer we address it directly. Otherwise, I believe we've wasted more than enough time." He blinked, then quickly shifted into defensive arrogance. "Ms. Johnson, I assure you I'm simply doing my due diligence." "And I assure you," Maya said, eyes locked on his, "that I know a delay tactic when I see one. If my business isn't welcome here, I have no issue taking it elsewhere." Before he could formulate a reply, a knock at the door interrupted them. A junior staff member, Claire, stepped in. "Sorry to interrupt, Mr. Gaines. The regional board members just arrived for their meeting." The color drained from his face. He shot up, adjusting his tie as though the air had turned heavy. "Of course, please escort them to the conference room. I'll be there shortly." Claire nodded, but paused, glancing at Maya with a hint of recognition. "Actually, one of the board members specifically asked to see Ms. Johnson." Maya's eyebrows lifted, her curiosity clearly piqued. Mr. Gaines turned toward her slowly, his discomfort now unmistakable. "Well then," he muttered, "it seems you have quite the network, Ms. Johnson." He spoke the words with visible strain, and Maya met his gaze without flinching. "Yes," she replied coolly. "It appears I do." With quiet dignity, Maya straightened her posture and followed Claire out of the office. Mr. Gaines trailed. Behind, his footsteps brisk and unsteady as they echoed off the polished stone floors. The lobby buzzed softly. Employees paused mid-task, and customers looked up with subtle curiosity as the small group made its way toward the executive meeting wing. The conference doors were already open, revealing a room full of sharply dressed board members engaged in lively conversation. At the center stood Henry Caldwell, a tall man with salt and pepper hair and a presence that lit up the room. When his eyes found Maya's, his face immediately broke into a broad, sincere smile. "Maya!" he boomed, his voice rich with affection. "It's been far too long." "Mr. Caldwell," she greeted warmly, mirroring his smile as she approached. He extended a hand to shake hers, but Maya instead offered a quick, heartfelt hug. The other board members exchanged curious glances, clearly intrigued by the familiarity between the two. "You're looking great, Henry," she said, stepping back. "And you haven't changed a bit," he replied, gesturing for her to take a seat. "Please, have a seat. I trust Mr. Gaines has been treating you well?" The question sounded casual, but the way Caldwell glanced over at Gaines suggested he wasn't so sure. Maya paused, meeting Gaines's nervous gaze for a fleeting second. His jaw was tight, hands awkwardly twitching at his sides. "Well," she said diplomatically, "let's just say it's been an interesting morning." Henry's brow furrowed, but he didn't press further. Instead, he turned to the rest of the room. "Everyone," he announced, "I'd like to introduce Maya Johnson, an exceptional force in the world of real estate development. Her Riverstone Commons initiative is exactly the kind of innovative investment this region needs. The board greeted her with warm nods, a few faces lighting up in recognition. Gaines, who had been lingering awkwardly at the door, stepped forward, abruptly, eager to steer the moment back under his control. "Yes," he chimed in quickly. "Ms. Johnson and I were just finalizing the details of her loan file. It's quite a complex endeavor, and I wanted to ensure every box was checked." Maya glanced at him, her face calm but unreadable. "That's certainly one way to describe it," she said evenly, her voice edged with subtle defiance. Caldwell narrowed his eyes slightly, picking up on the undercurrent. "Is that so?" he asked, his tone gentle but inquisitive. He turned back to Maya. "And from your perspective, how has the process gone so far?" She inhaled slowly, choosing her words with care. "The underwriting team was diligent and efficient," she began, "but the final stages have experienced unnecessary delays." Gaines shifted in place, visibly uncomfortable. "I can assure you, Mr. Caldwell, I've simply been thorough in my review. We follow every step to the letter." Caldwell leaned back, studying him carefully. "Thorough, you say? Maya, did you have a scheduled appointment today?" "Yes," she answered plainly. "At 10 o'clock sharp. I even arrived early." "And what time is it now?" he asked, voice low but sharp. Maya glanced at her watch. "Nearly 1 p.m. A hushed wave of murmurs passed through the room. The board exchanged glances, expressions ranging from puzzled to clearly displeased. Caldwell's jaw tightened, but his voice remained composed. "Samuel," he said evenly, "I sincerely hope there's a very good explanation for why one of our most valued clients has been kept waiting nearly 3 hours." Gaines opened his mouth to speak, then shut it again, his face turning crimson. "I was just making sure everything was properly aligned," he muttered. Caldwell turned toward Maya. "Maya, would you mind stepping outside for a moment? I'd like to speak with Mr. Gaines privately." "Of course," she replied smoothly, rising from her seat. As she walked into the hallway, she noticed the quiet glances exchanged between a few staff members, looks of subtle satisfaction. It was clear Gaines's behavior hadn't gone unnoticed by the people around him. From inside the conference room, the muffled but unmistakable sound of Caldwell's voice could be heard. Firm, measured, but undeniably stern. Maya allowed herself a small smile, but it faded just as quickly. Moments like these reminded her that no matter how far she had come, there were still doors that needed to be pushed open. After a few minutes, the door reopened. Caldwell stepped out, his expression calm but resolute. "Maya, please come back in." She returned to the room, her posture poised and steady. Gaines stood silently near the wall, his face pale, his confidence nowhere in sight. Caldwell gestured for her to sit. "I want to personally apologize for how this situation was handled," he said. "It doesn't represent the values we stand for at this institution, and I'll make sure appropriate steps are taken." "I appreciate that," Maya replied, her tone even but sincere. "I've always believed this bank could become a true leader in supporting community development. I hope we can move forward together to make that happen." Caldwell nodded firmly. "Absolutely. And regarding the Riverstone Commons project, I'll see to it personally that the documentation is fast-tracked. You can consider the loan approved." The words landed like a gentle release to the tension Maya had been holding. She smiled warmly. "Thank you, Henry. That means more than, you know." As the meeting wrapped up, Maya shook hands with the other board members, each of them offering kind words and admiration for her work. When she finally stepped out of the conference room, a quiet sense of triumph washed over her, but her mind had already shifted toward how she could use this moment to push for real, lasting change. Claire, the junior associate who had spoken up earlier, approached her hesitantly. "Ms. Johnson," she said softly, "I just wanted to say, I'm sorry." for how you were treated earlier. It wasn't right. Maya placed a gentle hand on her shoulder. Thank you for saying that. Doing the right thing isn't always easy, but it matters. Claire nodded, her expression brightening. Maya turned toward the exit, her stride purposeful, her head high. This wasn't just her win. It was a step toward something far bigger. Later, as she made her way through the lobby once more, the air felt quieter. The earlier buzz replaced by stillness. Staff, who had been silently watching now, looked away quickly. Though Maya caught a few fleeting, supportive smiles, Claire stood by the teller counter again. Their eyes met, and the young woman offered a quiet nod of respect. Just before Maya reached the doors, Caldwell appeared beside her, his long steps falling into rhythm with hers. Maya, do you have a moment? She paused, turning toward him. Of course, Henry. He glanced around, then lowered his voice. I just wanted to thank you, not only for your patience, but for the grace with which you handled all of this. You've given us the chance to confront issues we frankly should have addressed a long time ago. Maya tilted her head slightly, her expression reflective. I appreciate that, Henry, but truthfully, I shouldn't have needed to be patient in the first place. This goes beyond today. It's about making sure every client, no matter who they are, is treated with dignity. Caldwell nodded solemnly. You're absolutely right, and I'd like to extend an invitation to you. Our board is launching a new task force focused on reworking our customer service model with an emphasis on inclusion and fairness. We would be honored to have your input. Frankly, I can't think of anyone better to guide us. The offer caught Maya slightly off guard. She was used to wearing many hats as a business leader. But the idea of helping shape institutional reform at this level was new territory. Still, she smiled. I'd be glad to help. Let's make sure what happened today doesn't happen to anyone else. Caldwell extended his hand. Then it settled. My office will reach out with the next steps. As they shook hands, Maya felt the weight of the moment settle in. This wasn't just a personal victory. It was one more brick removed from the wall of bias that still stood in far too many places. As Maya stepped outside the bank, she noticed a familiar figure waiting by the curb. It was her assistant, Jordan, dressed in a sharp suit, camera bag over one shoulder. He had been waiting for her message, but clearly decided to come in person. His eyes lit up as she approached. Maya Johnson, how'd it go? He asked, holding the door open to the black sedan parked nearby. She slid into the seat, releasing a long breath as Jordan took the wheel. Let's just say, it was a day, she said with a smirk. The loan's approved, but it didn't come without some resistance. He raised an eyebrow, starting the engine. Should I be worried? You'll read all about it someday in my memoir, she replied, half joking, but not entirely. As they pulled away from the curb, Maya took out her phone, already drafting an email to her team. She wasn't about to let this experience sit idle. It was going to become a lesson, a catalyst. That evening, Maya stood before her staff in their vibrant downtown workspace. The Riverstone Commons initiative had united architects, designers, and neighborhood leaders, all focused on building homes that were affordable, but never lacking in dignity or design. The atmosphere buzzed with energy as Maya recounted what had happened. When I walked into that bank this morning, she began, I expected just another routine appointment. Instead, I was met with a reminder. A hard one, of the barriers we continue to face, not just as professionals, but as people of color. The room fell silent, her team hanging on every word. This isn't just about me, she continued, her voice strengthening. This is our struggle, and though today was a step forward, it's also a wake-up call. We can't just design better communities, we have to demand better systems. The room erupted into applause, followed by a flood of ideas, ways to fuse advocacy into their work. Maya felt a wave of pride. This was the ripple effect she had always envisioned. Meanwhile, back at Horizon National Bank, the impact of the day's events was already starting to unfold. Henry Caldwell convened an urgent meeting with the board and senior leadership to directly address what had occurred. The discussion was raw and honest. Caldwell laid out immediate steps to implement new policies ensuring all clients were treated fairly and without bias. Notably absent was Mr. Gaines, placed on immediate administrative leave, pending review of his conduct. By the end of the meeting, a unified determination had settled over the room. Caldwell's voice closed the session. With weight. This isn't about appearances. It's about integrity. And from this point on, we act accordingly. The following week, Maya received a formal letter of apology from the bank, along with an invitation to speak at their upcoming Equity and Inclusion Summit. While she appreciated the gesture, Maya knew real change wasn't about public statements. It would be built in policy, in uncomfortable conversations, in broken habits slowly rebuilt, in lives impacted. She found herself thinking of Claire, the junior associate who'd spoken up when it mattered. Maya made a note to reach out. People like Claire were the future, and Maya was determined to support them, to guide them, to make sure they had what they needed to grow. The next time Maya walked into Horizon National Bank, it wasn't for a loan. It was for the task force's very first meeting. Claire greeted her at the door, her face lit with pride. "Ms. Johnson, we're honored to have you with us." "The honor's mine," Maya said, gently placing a hand on her shoulder. "Let's get to work." As she stepped into the boardroom, the weight of what had happened weeks before was replaced by something else. Possibility. Purpose. She had taken injustice and transformed it into momentum, and she wasn't finished yet. This is the kind of story that asks us to face hard truths, to raise our standards, and to demand better from the world we live in. Maya's journey reminds us that real change isn't easy, but it's always worth the fight. Would you have spoken up in her place? Tell us what you think in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more stories that move hearts and fuel hope.